So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions unfortunately dropped their third game of the NFL season this weekend at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Detroit Lions, despite putting up 45 points on offense, were unable to come out with a victory in Week 4. And today, we're going to go over this matchup. We're going to look at what happened, what went right, what went wrong for the Detroit Lions, why they lost, and whether those mistakes are correctable or not, and, kind of dictating how much we as Lions fans should be overreacting to this particular loss. Now, starting off with the game itself, obviously, as I mentioned, the Detroit Lions ended up losing this game by a score of 48-45. The Lions offense was incredible on the day, with Jared Goff completing 26 of 39 pass attempts for 378 yards and 4 touchdowns. It is the second game of the season where Jared Goff passed for 4 touchdowns. Jamal Williams had 18 carries for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. He was a really, really good running back on the day. And then TJ Hockenson had his career day with 8 receptions for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the defense unfortunately did allow over 550 total yards and 48 points, and there was no true standout defensive player on that side of the football. And I think that obviously, right, the defense was the problem today. And I think that there was a little bit of a combination between the actual play on the field and the coaching mistakes that ended up making the defense look as poor as it did, because I don't think it's all on the defense, and I certainly don't think that everything is on Aaron Glenn at the end of the day. So, first off, I really wanted to look at this defensive performance. I went back, I rewatched the touchdowns, I rewatched, the touchdown drives, which was almost every drive of the game, and I kind of marked whether I thought the touchdown was a result of poor coaching, poor play calling, or just putting his players in bad positions, or whether it was just a player who was in a position where Aaron Glenn put that guy, just not being able to quite make the play. Now, the first 3 touchdowns of the game I have on the players. Those touchdowns being the first one of the game where Kerby Joseph, in my opinion, just flat out got beat, right? He was in good position. It was a good play call. There was somebody right on the tight end, and the tight end just made a better play than Kerby Joseph on that play. The second play, the quarterback draw, again, I thought that was more on the players than on Aaron Glenn. I thought Malcolm Rodriguez, jumped a little too far back into his coverage. Right, if he wasn't a quarterback spot, I thought he got a little bit too deep into the end zone where that lineman was able to step up and was able to block him so Geno Smith could get into the end zone. I didn't think that was necessarily a bad call on Aaron Glenn's part. I think that was just a really good execution and read by Geno Smith to tuck that ball and run. And then the third touchdown, where I don't know the exact defense that was called, but it looked like Kerby Joseph had a little bit of a communication error where he took the inside guy, as did the cornerback, leaving Noah Fant wider than wide open on the flat route for the easy pitch and catch. Again, I don't think that's something that was intentionally designed by Aaron Glenn's defense. I think that was a miscommunications by the players on the field, and that is not something I will hold against Aaron Glenn. I think that if your player isn't up to the task, I mean, yes, you could make the argument that, you can pull him out for somebody else, but I'm not going to blame Aaron Glenn for the play call or the defensive, formation when it's pretty obvious that the player got beat, not the system or the play call. But to that point, I did think the other 2 offensive touchdowns from yesterday's game were on Aaron Glenn. The 2 long rushing touchdowns on 3rd and long, where Rashad Penny had a huge breakaway run multiple times on the defense, and they were simply unable to stop him. I do put those runs on Aaron Glenn. I do put those touchdowns on Aaron Glenn because, yes, I understand the idea, right? I'm trying to be impartial. I understand the idea behind what they did, right? It's 3rd and long. You want to bring that pressure. You think it's a passing down, right? Because who on their right mind would run on 3rd and 16 when you have to, convert in order to potentially save the game? The Seahawks ran the ball. Those gaps opened up in the running game really quick. Rashad Penny, got right through the hole, right through the A gap. And, part of the drawback of running those 7-8-man blitzes is if you get past that first line, there's very few players in the way to stop you. And Rashad Penny had 2 touchdowns on that. The first one, I think that it was a little bit easier to defend Aaron Glenn, right? Because it's that 3rd and long, that 3rd and very long. Why would you run the ball? The Seahawks drew up a draw play and actually just happened to find the right gap and broke through it. And again, once you're past that first line on a 0 blitz, you're pretty much gone. On that, I do blame Aaron Glenn because the play call did get beat, and the Seahawks obviously were able to counter that. They knew what was coming, and they were able to draw up the right play call in order to counter that. The second one, though, is, I think, inexcusable by Aaron Glenn, right? Yes, you want your coaches to stick to their philosophy. Yes, you want them to stick with what has, given you the smallest amount of success you have seen in the game, which those blitzes were really the only pressure that the Detroit Lions were getting on the day. But when you just saw them the drive before counter that exact play in a very similar scenario, I don't quite understand why Aaron Glenn put his players in that same exact situation for the second time. And as we saw, it obviously resulted in almost the exact same result, a long rushing touchdown that essentially iced the game for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, defensively, I think there are quite a few players that need to step up. Aiden Hutchinson and Charles Harris on the edges need to be better. I know that Aiden Hutchinson is statistically the best rookie in the NFL right now on the defensive side of the ball. He leads rookies in pressures and in run support grades and everything like that. But he needs to play better. And I even understand the fact that, Aiden Hutchinson has been double teamed a lot this season, right? There's a chart, I'll find it, I'll put it on the screen, of Aiden Hutchinson being the 2nd highest double teamed edge rusher in the NFL through week 3. I don't know exactly how it was in week 4. And I get those things, right? I get that he's being double teamed. I get that he is, not getting the sacks. And I get that, they're game planning to stop 97. But at the end of the day, we drafted him to be a franchise edge rusher, and the elite players in the NFL, they get around that. The Myles Garrett, the Von Millers, the elite of the elite end up getting past those double teams regardless, and that's the next step I would need to see Aiden Hutchinson taking in that development, right? I think he's in a good spot as a rookie, but if we really are going to start winning defensive football games, and if we want our defense to play to where they can be, Aiden Hutchinson needs to step up and be that elite player, not just a good football player. Now, it's not all on Aiden Hutchinson, of course, as Charles Harris needs to win those one-on-ones. Last year, when he got those one-on-one opportunities, he played really well. He came away with 7.5 sacks and looked like a pretty good edge rusher. He hasn't done that this year, has just 1 sack, and that sack came against the Washington Commanders in the lone victory. He needs to play better. Imani Oruwariye needs to play better in coverage. Statistically, he isn't playing that bad. I believe allowing just 50% completion at about a 75 QBR rating when targeted. He really hasn't played all that bad in the season, but the game versus Minnesota, he didn't play very well. And then, of course, last week versus the Seattle Seahawks, he didn't quite have his best game. I don't think it was terrible by any means, but I do want to see a little bit more out of him. Need to see those interceptions from a year ago. And then I think Kirby Joseph simply wasn't ready to start. Kirby Joseph was a project player at 97. He has all the tools. He has the range and the ball skills to do what he did at Illinois to turn the football over. And we even saw a couple plays, right? He made a very physical tackle on DK Metcalf. He did have a few plays where he was in good position and good coverage. However, he needs to play better. He needs to get up to speed a little bit faster. And as Aaron Glenn is the defensive coordinator, if your player isn't ready to step in, you need to find somebody else it is, whether it's Juju Hughes, who knows the defense a little better, whether it's Ifeatu Melifonwu, ready to finally step into that safety role. You need to find somebody that can play that role reliably, because honestly, Kirby Joseph isn't ready, and I think he still could be a good player. I'm not giving up calling him a bust after one game, because that is very clearly far from the truth, but Kirby Joseph needs to step up in this next game or two if he wants to, essentially stay and remain the starter in Detroit until Tracy Walker returns. Now, another thing, right, just the defense was not very good, right? That's what this whole video is essentially about. It wasn't very good. The Lions are the highest scoring offense in the NFL at this point. They are the highest scoring team in NFL history through 4 weeks of NFL play. They are 1-3 on the season. They are on pace to be statistically the best offense in NFL history from a points per game perspective, and they are 1-3 because they have maybe one of the worst statistical defenses ever. The Lions defense doesn't have to be good. It doesn't even have to be average. It has to be bad. Right? The Lions right now, if they were to swap places with the Chargers, who are ranked as the 30th offense in the or 30th defense in the NFL, they would be 3-1 right now. The Chargers are ranked as the 30th defense in the NFL. They are allowing 27 points per game. If the Lions defense did that, if they ranked top 30 in the NFL, they would be 3-1 on the season. That's how poor the Lions defense has been. Now, there's a couple different ways the Lions can go about fixing it, and we will talk a lot more about that tomorrow. Different players, different schemes, different things the Lions can do to help their defense improve come next week. But today, we're not going to focus on that specifically. We are going to focus on who played well, who didn't play well, and what needs to be fixed before we focus on how to fix it. The defense needs to be fixed. Our players need to step up in bigger moments. Our coordinators need to play a little bit better. They need to coach these games a little bit better, get more out of these defensive players. And overall, they need to be better on the defensive side of the ball. Now, looking forward a little bit into next week, the Lions traveled to New England, traveled to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots, with Matt Patricia calling the offense, with Bailey Zapp as the quarterback. The Lions should win this game. The Patriots are not a good offense. They do not pass the ball very well. They're the 20th ranked scoring offense in the NFL. They are the 14th ranked offensive line, being dead average in the NFL. They have good matchups versus the Lions secondary. The Lions secondary has good matchups versus the New England Patriots wide receiving core. The Patriots are a good running team, but the Lions are built to stop the run much more than they are to stop the pass, right? Isaiah Buggs, Aleem McNeil, they are run stoppers. They are not pass rushers. They need to get the job done on Sunday. If they can get to 2-3 going into the bye, I will have a lot more confidence than if they are 1-4 going into the bye. And they should be able to bounce back, right? The Patriots, despite their record, haven't really had that many impressive games, right? They lost to the Packers last week with minimal offense, and the Packers, I think, are underperforming this year to this point, right? They haven't really been able to do it. They won a very close game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, who don't have a very good record. They got blown out by Miami, who is a good football team, obviously, but they aren't an offensive player. They are not an offensive team. They're not this offensive juggernaut. If the Lions defense is going to get right in this season, it has to be right now. And I think they are playing a very good opponent to do so. New England isn't great at scoring. They're not great at passing. They're down to their third string quarterback, and Matt Patricia is calling the offensive plays. If Aaron Glenn cannot get this defense right versus New England, I think the Lions are going to be in trouble this week. But I do think they have the players, and I do think they have the coaching staff that will look at this team and get them right come next Sunday on the defensive side of the ball. And if the Lions can even hold New England to 28 or 25, or let alone 3 touchdowns on the game, I think they're going to have a great chance to win this game. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know your biggest takeaways from this game down in the comments below. What did you think about it? What did you think about the offense? What did you think about the defense? What do you think these biggest problems are, and how do you think we are going to fix it as the Detroit Lions? I'd be very curious to your guys' opinions and thoughts. With all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.